Hi guys, how you doing? I just decided to do an ab rollout video. There's one from years ago on the page, but I thought I'd do an updated one. And the reason I've been prompted to do it is because I just made a wee video of hip thrusts, and I think it's worth pointing out that there's a real strong connection between the finish point of a hip thrust, barbell hip thrust, one-legged hip thrust, and the start and finish position of an ab rollout. And I thought, do you know what, this is a nice time to quickly go over ab rollouts. So the key point I want you to focus on when it comes to ab rollouts is the start position. So your knees, hips and shoulders should be in a relatively straight but diagonal line like this, okay? So what happens is that when most folk do ab rollouts, they focus on rolling the ab wheel out quite far, because they obviously think the further you roll the wheel out, the harder it is, the more hard it's going to be for your abs, therefore it's the more effective it's going to be. But that's only the case if you can hold your form. So what most folk tend to do, I find, is that they push the wheel out, and as they push the wheel out, they drop the hips there, and then they pull it back like this. Okay, so they sort of push it out, they keep their bum goes back like that, and then they pull back like that. Okay, so, and what also tends to happen is that as they push out, there's more and more strain gets added to the abdominal muscles. And if your abdominal muscles aren't strong enough to handle the additional load that increasing the range brings, then they end up hyperextending their back like this. The bum sticks out a little bit more, and they end up with quite a lot of excessive pressure going through your lower back. So with the ab rollout, what's really important to remember is that when it comes to weight training, when you add weight, that's the overload. So, or that's one example of the overload. If you want to add weight to the bar, you're increasing the challenge. C, increasing the range on ab pull rollouts is adding weight to it. Okay, so like for example, if you're here, let's suppose that's the equivalent of the deadlifting 50k. If you go out further to here, it's the equivalent of deadlifting 70k. If you go out here, it's the equivalent of deadlifting 100k. For example, obviously it's not the equivalent of that exactly, but my point is that the increased range is the increase of the load. And when it comes to deadlifts or bench press or any other exercise, if you're deadlifting 60k and you see a 100k bar in front of you, you wouldn't just decide to try and lift a 100k bar, because the chances are you wouldn't be able to do it. You're not ready for it. You're not trained long enough to develop the strength to lift it. So the only way you're going to maybe manage it is if with really poor form. And so that's what happens when it comes to ab rollouts. People try and just focus on the range without actually focusing on holding their form. And then, so the idea is to get your form right and then build range. So what you want to do is tuck the pelvis under, like here, squeeze the glutes, and right away you should feel your abs engaged. Your ribs are down, your ribs are pushed down, your abs are engaged, and you're squeezing through the glutes. If you had a tailbone here, imagine you're trying to tuck it under here. Okay, so that is the start position and the finish position, but that's also the finish position of the top of a hip thrust. So you're tucking, you're squeezing the glutes, you're pushing your ribs down, the bar's here. So it's the same pattern, and it's really useful, I think, that if you're struggling to get the finish point in a hip thrust, to try and relate it to the ab rollout, the finish point of ab rollout, squeezing the glutes, ribs down, abs engaged here, is exact same with the bar, exact same. Okay, so and then from there, I would just come out a few inches and then pull the wheel back, but maintain alignment through the hips and knees and the shoulders. If you go further, make sure that you're still able to keep the pelvis tucked under, the ribs down and the abs engaged, and then you pull the wheel back while maintaining that strong lumbar position. So what we don't want to see is like you're hyperextending, you're covering your lower back excessively because you're not able to control it. So the key thing here is you need to have the abdominal strength to like maintain a nice strong lumbar position. So if you're not got the ab strength, you won't be able to. Okay, so you have to take your time over the weeks and months to build up the ab strength that will allow you to increase the load, increase the range, that will then allow you to then maintain a correct position through your lower back. Okay, hope that makes sense. Any questions, give me a shout.